Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr. Srinivas Concepts. This is Dr. Srinivas, neurologist from Rajahmundry, Andhra Pradesh, India. I am also the medical author of the book Focused Neurology. My email address is sriklpm@gmail.com. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, stroke and hemiplegia part 6, stroke and stroke mimics. So stroke and hemiplegia part 6, stroke and stroke mimics. Classification of stroke based on terminology. We have transient ischemic attack, stroke, progressing stroke, stroke in evolution, and completed stroke. Transient ischemic attack. It describes a stroke in which symptoms resolve within 24 hours. It also includes patients with amaurosis fugax, usually due to a vascular lesion in the retina. So persons with transient ischemia may present with amaurosis fugax, a blindness as if the curtain coming from above downwards. It is because of the thromboembolism coming from the carotid artery to the ophthalmic artery and affecting the retina. So when a person presents with amaurosis fugax, we need to be very careful. It could be a warning sign of an impending stroke. So, transient ischemia describes a stroke in which symptoms resolve within 24 hours, but usually within 1 hour according to the recent literature. Stroke describes those events in which symptoms last more than 24 hours. So, TIA, the stroke in which symptoms resolve within 24 hours, and stroke describes those events in which symptoms last more than 24 hours. Then we have the progressing stroke or stroke in evolution. It describes a stroke in which the focal neurological deficit worsens after the patient first presents. Such worsening may be due to increasing volume of infarction or hemorrhagic transformation or increasing cerebral edema. Usually cerebral edema worsens on the day 3 and 4. So progressing stroke or stroke in evolution describes a stroke in which the focal neurological deficit worsens after the patient first presents. Then we have the completed stroke, describes a stroke in which the focal deficit persists and is not progressing. So classification of stroke based on terminology, we have TIA, transient ischemic attack, stroke, progressing stroke or stroke in evolution, and completed stroke. We need to be very careful when a person presents with sudden onset of weakness. Yeah, most of the time it is usually due to stroke, but then there are lot of stroke mimics which we need to be careful of. So what are the stroke mimics? The typical presentation of stroke is that the typical presentation occurs over minutes, affects an identifiable area of the brain. It could be motor cortex or the speech center, and is generally negative in character, abrupt loss of function without positive features such as abnormal movement. So they can have abrupt loss of function like weakness, abrupt loss of sensory functions, hemesthesia, or abrupt loss of vision on one side, homonymous hemianopia, or abrupt loss of speech. So they are usually negative in character. So stroke is the typical presentation occurs over minutes, affects an identifiable area of the brain, and is usually negative in character. So we can easily remember this by a mnemonic FAST, F-A-S-T. F stands for one side of the face drooping, and usually they'll have UMN 7th nerve palsy. So one side of the face gets affected, one side of the face is drooping because of the UMN 7th nerve palsy. For example, if the cortex gets affected on one side, there will be hemiplegia on the opposite side, with the UMN 7th nerve palsy, so the angle of the mouth is deviated towards the opposite side. So if we see face on one side drooping, we have to think of stroke. There will be arm or leg weakness. Usually they present with hemiplegia or hemiparesis, or there could be speech difficulty. If the superior division of the MCA gets affected, person will have Broca's aphasia. If the embolus lodges into the inferior division of the MCA, they will have Wernicke's aphasia. And finally, T. T is the time to call for ambulance immediately. So we identify stroke by mnemonic FAST, F-A-S-T. F is for one side of the face drooping because of the UMN 7th nerve palsy. So face is affected, arm or leg weakness, speech difficulty, and time to call for ambulance immediately. Though these are the typical presentation of stroke, there are a lot of stroke mimics. So stroke mimics have to be ruled out for correct management, especially when we are planning for thrombolysis. We thrombolyze only when the stroke is confirmed. If we are going to thrombolyze with presentation which mimics stroke, it could be disastrous for the patient. And therefore, when a person presents with symptoms suggestive of stroke, we need to confirm whether it is actually is a stroke or there are stroke mimics. So what are the stroke mimics? The stroke mimics are one. The common stroke mimic is hypoglycemia. A person may be diabetic, taking too much of insulin or oral hypoglycemic agents like sulfonylurea, or patient may be fasting. So those patients with hypoglycemia also can present with weakness which is of sudden in onset, and therefore we should always rule out hypoglycemia. In fact, when we are planning to thrombolyze a person, the first thing we need to check out is the person's blood sugar level. If the blood sugar level is low, hypoglycemia, it is a stroke mimic, and we need not treat according to the stroke protocol. So hypoglycemia is one of the common stroke mimics. Second is the Todd's paralysis. After epileptic seizure, person may develop weakness. So we should always ask history of epilepsy. So after epilepsy also they can have weakness, post epileptic weakness, what we call as Todd's paralysis. So another stroke mimic. Third is trauma causing extradural hematoma or subdural hematoma. Generally EDH or SDH we don't consider it as stroke. So when a person has got history of head injury and the artery is affected, especially the middle meningeal artery, there will be torrential bleed and it can give rise to extradural hematoma. The hematoma forming outside the dura. So it is well localized. Since it's an arterial bleed, there will be torrential bleed. We need to immediately scan the person, take a CT scan, and if a ETH is localized, we call a neurosurgeon and the hematoma is drained out and the person recovers well. So very satisfying experience. We should not miss extradural hematoma. So if there's extradural hematoma clinically, how do we diagnose? When there's extradural hematoma, we check out on the pupillary size. It can go and compress the midbrain. The parasympathetic fibers run superficially on the third nerve, and therefore when it goes and compresses the parasympathetic fibers which run on the third nerve superficially, it cannot constrict. So one side pupil will be dilated, the other side pupil is normal. We call this as Hutchinson's pupil. So trauma causing extradural hematoma because of the middle meningeal arterial rupture is going to be a torrential bleed. We have to call a neurosurgeon immediately and take the hematoma out. The other hematoma which is presented after head injury is subdural hematoma. In fact, old people might have had a trivial injury, small injury, minor injury, they might have even forgotten in the injury, but then the vein might have ruptured and slowly the blood may start trickling down. And few days or few weeks or months later, persons may present with dementia. In fact, chronic subdural hematoma is one of the treatable forms of dementia. So if an old person with trivial injury presents with dementia, always we need to consider subdural hematoma, take a CT scan, and again if there's hematoma, call a neurosurgeon and drain it out. Bleeding into the tumor. Though tumor may take few days to present, if there's a sudden bleeding into the tumor, it can present suddenly. So bleeding into the tumor also can present suddenly. Complicated migraine. We have the common migraine, classic migraine, and complicated migraine. Complicated migraine is that migraine which presents with neurologic deficits like weakness, or cranial nerve palsy. So a complicated migraine also is a strong stroke mimic, and we need to be always careful about it. Demyelination. In fact, if a person presents with sudden onset of a neurologic deficit, we should always consider two possibilities. One, vascular. Second is demyelination. Why do demyelinative lesions present suddenly? Because myelin sheath, a myelinated nerve fibers, conducts velocity at a rapid speed because of saltatory conduction, wherein one impulse jumps from one node of Ranvier to the other node of Ranvier, again to the other node of Ranvier. Because of this jumping like a kangaroo, the impulses go at a very rapid speed. But once the myelinated sheath or myelin is affected, the saltatory conduction is affected, so the conduction velocity is gone, the speed of the conduction velocity is reduced, and persons can present with sudden onset of a neurologic deficit. So sudden onset of neurologic deficit, we should always consider vascular and demyelinative. So demyelination also can present with sudden onset of weakness like multiple sclerosis, vasculitis secondary to tuberculosis, and syphilitic meningitis. Though tuberculosis and syphilitic are a chronic process affecting the meninges, they can affect vessel, can cause vasculitis, and the presentation can be sudden. So we need to always consider vasculitis secondary to tuberculosis and syphilitic meningitis. And finally, the conversion disorder. It can be diagnosed by Hoover's sign. Young people, especially women, can present with weakness which is hysterical in nature. They are not actually having organic weakness, but they present as if they have weakness just to gain sympathy and attention seeking behavior. So how do we differentiate an organic or true hemiplegia from a pseudo hemiplegia? We can differentiate this by a sign known as Hoover's sign. No pressure is felt in the non-paratic limb or leg when the paratic leg is being raised. Imagine these two are the legs. So the examiner places one hand on this leg and the other hand underneath this leg. So we ask the person to lift the leg. Imagine hemiparesis on this side. So when the person is really having true hemiplegia, person will not be able to lift, will try. So when he's not able to lift, he'll put extra pressure on the normal leg downwards. He'll try to lift, he cannot, so he'll put the extra pressure on the normal leg downwards. So the examiner can feel the extra pressure on the normal leg downwards. If the person is able to feel the extra pressure on the normal leg downwards, that means the person is really hemiplegic. Because he is not able to raise the paralyzed leg, he tries with great difficulty to raise this paralytic leg by putting the pressure on the normal leg downwards. So if the examiner is able to feel the normal pressure, the pressure on the normal leg downwards, that means person is truly hemiplegic. But if the person is pseudo hemiplegic, they will neither put pressure to lift the supposed to be paralyzed leg upwards nor the normal leg downwards. So the examiner will not feel the pressure on the supposed to be normal leg downwards. So this is how we differentiate true hemiplegia from pseudo hemiplegia by a sign known as Hoover's sign. In Hoover's sign, the examiner will feel the pressure on the normal leg downwards when the patient is asked to lift the paralyzed leg upwards. This is Hoover's sign. So when we approach a person with stroke, we should always consider all these stroke mimics. So how do we differentiate between stroke and stroke mimics? The differences between stroke and stroke mimics. One, symptom onset. Second, the symptom progression. Third, the severity of the deficit. Fourth, the pattern of deficit. Fifth, loss of consciousness. Symptom onset. If it is stroke, it will be sudden in onset. As I said, vascular and demyelinative, they will be sudden in onset. Sudden in onset minutes, it is more suggestive of stroke. Whereas slower in onset, it is a stroke mimic. Symptom progression. If it is vascular, it rapidly progresses and reaches maximum severity, like thrombosis, embolism or hemorrhage, rapidly reaches its maximum severity. Whereas if it is a stroke mimic, there is a often gradual onset. Severity of deficit, unequivocal. There is definite severity. There is definitely deficit and it is of severe in nature. Whereas stroke mimic may be variable, uncertain. It may keep varying. So if it is unequivocal, it is stroke. Pattern of deficit, it is hemispheric pattern. For example, if the MCA on this side gets affected, person will have hemiplegia on the opposite side, and an MCA stroke on one side will have hemiplegia on the opposite side. One side hemispheric pattern, it is suggestive of stroke. Whereas stroke mimic, it is non-specific. They may have delirium, memory loss, balance disturbance. So they are non-specific with delirium, memory loss, balance disturbance. They are stroke mimics. Whereas hemispheric pattern, it is more in favor of stroke. Loss of consciousness. Usually it is uncommon in stroke, whereas it is more common in stroke mimics like hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia, one of the strong stroke mimics, causes loss of consciousness because the conscious depends on the RAA system, reticular activating system, which starts in the brainstem and goes to both the cortices bilaterally. So this RAA system is responsible for a person to be in a conscious state. So if the RAA system gets affected, be it in brainstem or both the cortices, not a single cortex, because RAS goes to both the cortices. So a person can lose consciousness either if the brainstem is affected or both the cortices get affected. If one cortex gets affected, person does not lose consciousness. I repeat, if one cortex gets affected, person does not lose consciousness. And therefore in hypoglycemia, where the RA system gets affected in a diffuse manner, person loses consciousness. RAS can get affected by two ways. One, structural cause like infarct, hemorrhage or tumor, or metabolic like hypoglycemia, hyponatremia or hypoxemia, because cerebral neurons depend so much on oxygen, glucose and sodium for its survival. Therefore, metabolic impairment of the RAS also person loses consciousness, or structural involvement of the RAS, structural disruption of the RAS also person loses consciousness. So in a stroke mimic like hypoglycemia, it affects RAS in a diffuse manner and person loses consciousness. Whereas if it is a stroke, and especially MCA stroke, either on one side or on the opposite side, person does not lose consciousness. As I said earlier, in MCA infarct, either right or left, only one cortex gets affected. If one cortex, if RAS on one cortex, only on one side of the cortex gets affected, person does not lose consciousness. Only when both the cortices get affected, person loses consciousness. So a massive MCA infarct, person does not lose consciousness, because only one side of the cortex is affected. Unless there is massive edema, cerebral edema, going and compressing the other side of the cortex, or there is a very, very massive infarct going and compressing the brainstem or the other side of cortex. So unless it is massive or big cerebral edema, large cerebral edema going and compressing the other cortex, and only when both the cortices get affected, person loses consciousness. So one MCA infarct, one side of the cortex getting affected, person does not lose consciousness. So loss of consciousness in stroke is very, very uncommon because only one cortex gets affected. Whereas very common in a stroke mimic like hypoglycemia, because it affects RAS in a diffuse manner. So when we approach a person with stroke, we should always try to rule out stroke mimics, because we'll be doing more harm if we treat stroke mimics like stroke. And one of the common stroke mimics always we need to consider is hypoglycemia. In fact, any person who comes in a comatose state, always we have to consider hypoglycemia and give dextrose, because it's a highly treatable condition and it gives us a lot of satisfaction. Even if a person is diabetic, take out the blood, send for investigation and immediately give dextrose, because hypoglycemia is going to kill the person. Even if it is hyperglycemia, at a later point of time we can give insulin and correct it. So always a person who comes in an unconscious state, we should always consider hypoglycemia and give dextrose. Highly satisfying and treatable condition. Even before we complete giving dextrose, person will sit up and talk. The only cause of concern is alcoholics with hypoglycemia. alcoholics will have vitamin B1 deficiency, thiamine deficiency, and on top of it, if we give dextrose, whatever little thiamine is present, that is also will be utilized, and we may precipitate the persons to develop Wernicke-Korsakoff psychosis. So for all hypoglycemic patients, we immediately give dextrose, but alcoholics with hypoglycemia, we give thiamine and later followed by dextrose. So one of the strong stroke mimics is hypoglycemia. We need to always rule it out before embarking on the treatment of stroke. So identifying stroke mimics becomes a paramount importance, because it changes the entire course of treatment and management. This is the book Focused Neurology, and the medical author Dr. Srinivas. I put most of the concepts of neurology in a question and answer format. It is available online from all leading bookshops, including Amazon. If you're interested, you can buy this book, Focused Neurology. And this is about stroke and stroke mimics. I really enjoyed giving this lecture, and I hope you have also enjoyed listening to my lecture. If you have any suggestions or comments, kindly post onto my YouTube channel. But please like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Srinivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.